And I'm Brant Freeman. Today we have
Bobcats is winding down, is now in the
Texas State women's basketball team is
around the corner and over the next several
Brant
weeks.
Freeman, a veteran sportscaster who became the voice of Bobcat athletics, got his start as an undergrad here at Texas State.
out of the stretch. No! Right down the middle, struck him out. Stivers flashes the horns down as the Bobcats have knocked off the top-ranked team of the country in their house. Final score from UFCU Dish Farm.
I grew up just outside of San Antonio, went to a high school known as Bernie. It was out there that I first got interested in sports, primarily basketball, but I did so at kind of a later age for kids that I grew up with. Many of them had been playing sports, into sports for a long time, Little League or whatever. Tried out for the basketball teams, junior high, didn't make it. Tried out freshman year of high school, didn't make it. So it was evident that, like, okay, athletically, I'm not that gifted, but I really love sports. And I grew up a huge Spurs fan and would follow them, very closely. We didn't get all the Spurs games on TV. They weren't readily available. So if I wanted to follow, I was following on the radio. And my father was really good friends with the radio voice of the Spurs at the time, Jay Howard. I decided that was the path I wanted to take. I was huge into pro sport, and so I was and am still a huge Spurs fan, but I got into the NFL, got into football, got into baseball kind of thing. Loved watching on TV, listening on the radio, reading about it in the newspaper. I kept consuming sports. I think that's where a lot of my retention comes from. Students, when they get a job outside of campus, you work with a lot of other 18, 19, 20-year-olds, everybody's going to college and you're trying to figure out the next phase of life. So you start talking about, okay, what is it you really want to do? Well, it was a line cook at the restaurant who picked up his girlfriend from the radio station one time, and he saw a poster that said, like, hiring sports broadcasters. And he encouraged me, hey man, they're hiring sportscasters, you should apply. I did, like, the next day. Got hired, at KTSW. Started out as a board operator, helping to get games on the air. It was shortly thereafter I got my first chance to go on the air, and really the rest is history.
After 15 years of calling games as the radio voice for football, Brant went on to voice the ESPN Plus broadcasts.
At the time, a lot of Texas State games were not televised, and so fans wanted to follow the Bobcats. They were doing so listening to the radio. KTSW was the primary home for Bobcat athletics, so there wasn't a commercial radio station, there wasn't a radio network, and so we were fortunate enough as students to get the experience and the exposure, back then. When I graduated in 2006, by that point I put in about 3 years of doing campus radio stuff, but I also developed relationships with the athletic department. And after I graduated, they wanted me to kind of continue doing stuff for them, mainly with football. So I remained the voice of the football program on the radio and a host for the weekly football coaches show from that point on up until the ESPN Plus project started. Yeah, I was the primary radio voice of the football program from 2003 to 2018. My path, everybody's path to where they end up in their careers is different. I know this from having been there before. I know a lot of young people getting into the business want to try to, replicate those paths. Like, hey, if that's how he got from point A to point B, I should try the same. I would not recommend that for me because it was a different time back then. I got very lucky. Now, I'm not discouraging them from trying. I'm just saying that, your path is going to be different and unique like mine was as well. Having gone to school here, being the connection, between the fans and the programs themselves is a very special thing, and it's kind of crazy how things kind of worked out, but it's been great.